The sound was distant but constant, like a hum lulling me into submission. I opened my eyes. The flash of light outlining the curtains of my room caused me to squint. The shadows subsided to another few flashes as the crash of thunder carried on long after the visions had dissipated. I rolled over, reaching for my phone. I stared and waited for another flash. The dresser top was empty. I rolled over and leaned off the edge of the bed. Reaching down, I grabbed my target, pressing the keypad to reveal the time. Nothing happened. I tapped it again before looking to the charger cable to ascertain whether it was truly connected. It was. I reached for the remote on the ground to turn on the TV. The room flashed red as the power button on the remote lit up. The TV, however, sat there, unyielding. The storm, I thought to myself. Frustration building. Did I have a flashlight other than my phone? I got out of bed and walked slowly across the room, almost tripping over my clothes, which were strewn across the floor. The rain, beating against the window, pressed me onwards. I probed the table at the end of the room for my lighter. The one time I was glad I smoked. I flicked it to life and held my hand out to guard the flame as I walked to the door and raised the flame to illuminate the clock on the wall. 8:59. My heart stopped, frozen, in dismay. Mind crouched like a tiger ready to pounce. The thoughts came all at once, a bombardment of dominoes. I saw them all falling one after the next. Late for work again. Get written up. Get fired. I knew all too well. Most of my friends had multiple jobs before. This was my first job, my first week. I had 3 incidents already. This was the last straw. Could I use the storm as an excuse, I thought to myself, conjuring up conversations of imagination to play these ties of fate. Nothing would matter if it was past 10 a.m. by the time I arrived. The key was to reduce the events of pre-work ritual. I would skip a shave. 4 days stubble was fine, as long as I made it before 10 a.m. 2 hours late was a red card and a foul flag. This one would send me over the line, either suspension or being let go. I could afford neither. The decision was clear. Distract myself with brushing my teeth in the shower. The cold water will wake me up and clear my mind, calm me down a bit. The mint freshened my senses, the chill sharpened them. I was ready to go. Quickly, I put on my work clothes. At least I knew where my clothes were from the mess on the ground. Another positive from a negative. Today was an interesting day. Perhaps fate is on my side for once. It knows it's been pressing me for some time. It can be said I deserve it, but at what point am I atoned? I lit a cigarette and used its light to find my way to the front door. The keys in hand, I placed my rain jacket over my shoulders, throwing my hood up. I opened the door and walked into the maelstrom. The drive would be ferocious. Focus was key. I squinted against the pounding rain, a waterfall against my windshield, the wipers cascading across it as if they were to be launched from the vehicle itself. This old cobalt had seen me through much in these last years. It had been my haven from the storm of society, a little piece of heaven I could share with those closest. If only I had been able to hold on to them. The lightning flashed and I blinked. The back roads were my best option. I turned onto the fastest route. I could still make it in time if I pushed it. There was that one turn I need to care about. Everything else is golden. I pressed my foot hard against the accelerator, the feeling of fear and doubt fading as the adrenaline kicked in. The feeling overtook me as it always did. The edge was nearing. I had enough time. I spun the wheel. The car did not turn. My heart almost shot out of my chest. I slammed the brakes and the world of gray spun from outside the windshield. I could see the barrier approaching as I twisted my head and leaned back. I had done it now. No coming back, I thought. I wanted to pray in that moment, but it would be useless. Just like me, my life. I'd always overstepped, but this time was my last. I almost didn't feel the impact, my body being pressed back against the seat, the windshield shattering, the sound of metal bending and screeching, the sound of tires spinning. The lift raised my stomach. I imagined at any second I would wake up from this horrible dream, even if it was 10 a.m. Please let me wake up. I could see the ground coming towards me, the rocks and trees. Time seemed to stop. I could count the raindrops falling around me. I had the strangest sensation, the memories of my childhood. A spelling test I had cheated on. I remembered having the practice test tucked in my desk. It wasn't on purpose, it was just there. I had not thrown it out, probably part of the hoarder in me. Then there was the time my friends and I would play nights. We got our hands on a bow and fiberglass arrow. We would fire it up into the air and count how long it took to land, testing our range. I got mad one time and shot the arrow across the yard at him. He was sitting in a tree. The arrow missed his crotch by inches. I'd always been impulsive and ambitious and pressed my luck. Today was the day I went too far. It would be the last day. At least there was that. This mess I've made would not be able to catch up to me. The running I'd been doing for the last year was wasted now. I felt like I should have done more, cheated more, stolen more. Maybe then it wouldn't feel like I was leaving this world worse off than entering it. I'd been a pushover my whole life, bottled things up and burst at the wrong person, the wrong time. It was fate to end like this, where I couldn't even go out in a good way. No meaning in this, no value to it, just another mistake. Some not as destructive as others, but they all had a place in my mind, locked in a cage, the key long dust. They lingered now, free to torment me. The first time I'd gotten drunk in high school, I had the audacity to think I had a voice worth listening to. My friends at the time had not even put up with it as a joke. I can take that as a sign. Putting me in my place was something people always loved to do. Blonde hair, green eyes, curls that shone even at night. That's how I remember her. An angel. I'd tricked her into kissing me. I made fun of her afterwards. Why did I have such a big mouth? She slapped me and never talked to me again. The pain of insult was worse than the physical. At least with my friends, it was out of kindness in some sense. Humor was a part, but that's what friends are for. Now, those were distant. This car that held me through those nights listened to my cries, standing guard while I wept at my circumstances. You stood by my side, not like you had a choice, but you were here nonetheless. So be it that even in you, an inanimate object, I could cause such a fall from grace. Was it a curse, or just who I am? Perhaps the world is better off without me. I think of the first day of my job, how everyone looked at me. I tried to be polite, but my humor breaks through, and I make nervous jokes. No one is laughing. I look like a fool, but that is how it always is. I can never keep my mouth shut. At least now, through this extraordinary means, I'm finally silent.